Diep, are you all right? Talk to me, Diep.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's story. Diep lies unconscious in a hospital bed after a terrible accident that almost took 2 lives. Inside her is the child she's carrying with James, a man torn between waiting or letting go. Will Diep ever wake up to hear James's long-awaited proposal? Why does she return the ring when her heart clearly wants to say yes? And if love is real, why does she whisper not yet? This is not just about romance. It's about the silent pain of Diep's past, the quiet strength of James, who refuses to walk away, and the impossible question, is love enough when your body is broken and your heart still healing? If you believe in the kind of love that waits, forgives, and chooses again, then don't skip a second. Watch until the very end, and hey, we're so close to 1,000 followers. Hit that subscribe button to help us get there, and join us for more emotional stories like this. Let's begin. Diep and James are waiting. The late afternoon sun filtered gently through the dusty air of the city, casting amber shadows across narrow sidewalks. Diep walked slowly, one hand resting on the soft curve of her belly, the other carrying a paper bag with a few fresh oranges and a bottle of milk. She had gone out only for a moment, to buy something light for dinner. She hadn't wanted to bother James, who had been buried in business calls since morning. Her footsteps were light, careful. Inside her, the small life she was nurturing fluttered like the wings of a moth beneath silk. She smiled faintly. There was so much left unsaid, so many moments she still dreamed of. Teaching the baby to walk, whispering stories at bedtime, hearing James laugh as he watched them both in the kitchen. It was a fleeting moment of calm, the kind that never announces its end. A faint vibration in the ground, a sudden roar. She turned her head. A truck, out of control, hurtled down the street, the driver's shouts muffled beneath the metallic scream of brakes that came far too late. In that instant, the world slowed. The wind tore through her coat like claws. Time bent backward, folding in on itself like paper in fire. Diep didn't scream. There wasn't time, only instinct, a mother's instinct, her arms wrapped around her stomach as if she could shield what mattered most. Then impact. Her body struck the pavement with the dull thud of something precious breaking, and silence returned. Somewhere, a phone rang. Somewhere, people gasped and ran. Somewhere, sirens howled like wolves into the dusk. But Diep was gone, from the surface of the world at least. In the sterile white of the emergency room, doctors moved quickly. Machines beeped. Words were exchanged in clipped urgency. Pregnant. Head trauma. Internal bleeding. Still breathing. James arrived later, breathless and pale. One look through the glass was enough. She lay motionless, pale lips slightly parted, hands curled as if still clutching something invisible. "She's alive," a nurse said softly, "but she hasn't woken up." James didn't speak. He stepped closer to the bed, took her cold hand and whispered, "Come back to me. Come back to us." Outside, the city continued its rhythm, unaware that in room 314, time had stopped. Room 314 carried the weight of stillness. Machines breathed for her now, their steady beeping a strange kind of lullaby, mechanical and cold. Tubes trailed from her veins like winter vines, anchoring her to this side of life. But her mind had drifted somewhere else. In the hushed folds of her subconscious, Diep walked through a corridor of soft light. The hospital was still there, but different. Colors muted, sounds far away, like echoes underwater. She saw herself sitting upright, peeling fruit, laughing gently with a group of women who looked oddly familiar yet blurry. Their faces were worn by illness, but their eyes sparkled with something resilient. They shared oranges and quiet jokes, as if sickness was only a minor inconvenience in the rhythm of being alive. "Ba oi, chao moi ba an hoa qua a," she heard herself say, though her lips hadn't moved. A woman coughed, smiled, then faded like mist. Was it memory, or a dream stitched together from wishes? She missed her mother. She missed the feeling of belonging to something, someone. Outside of James, there was no one who waited for her return. No family dinners, no warm embraces. That hunger, the longing for a normal family, was deeper than the pain in her bones or the bruises on her arms. And yet, in this in-between world, kindness still bloomed. Diep reached out to strangers in that liminal space. She offered fruit, comfort, words she hadn't said aloud in years. They laughed together, swapped stories of illness and resilience. It was a fragile paradise suspended on hope. In the real world, James sat silently by her bedside. He had canceled meetings, delegated work, slept on a chair. He whispered to her even when she couldn't answer. Told her about the farm, the baby, the stupid thing his intern did that day, anything to keep her tethered to him. And still, she didn't wake. But inside that silent world she heard it, a voice not from memory. "Diep, can you hear me?" She turned toward the sound. It wasn't from this room. It came from outside, the real world. The tether was pulling, and in the soft fog of her mind, Diep clutched her belly and whispered, not out loud, not yet. "I'm trying." The world outside room 314 kept moving. Nurses came and went. Doctors rotated shifts. IV bags were replaced, but James stayed. His suit was wrinkled now, his tie forgotten somewhere in a corner chair. He hadn't left the hospital in days. His eyes, once sharp from boardrooms and balance sheets, now brimmed with something softer. Sleeplessness, devotion, fear. Every morning, he brought a cup of warm milk, strawberry-flavored, her favorite, though she couldn't drink it. Every night, he adjusted her blanket and whispered a different memory into her ear. The time she burned pancakes and blamed the stove. The way her nose crinkled when she laughed. The night she told him she was pregnant with trembling hands and hope in her eyes. He talked to her as if nothing had changed, as if she was just resting, not caught between breath and oblivion. "Today, the doctor said you're stable," he murmured one evening, holding her hand. "They said the baby's strong, like you." His voice cracked at the last word. In the silence, the rain returned. It slid down the window pane like unshed tears, painting streaks of silver on the dim glass. James turned his gaze outward, watching the city blur under the storm, then turned back to her. He brushed a strand of hair from her forehead, now pale as snow. "Em ko biet kong," he began in a whisper. "There were so many things I meant to say before, so many things I thought I had time for." But time, he realized, was cruel. It waited for no one. So James made a choice. No more hesitation, no more waiting for the perfect moment. If she ever opened her eyes again, he would say it all, without fear, without logic, without planning, just love. Because sometimes the bravest thing a man can do is stay, and wait, and believe. That night he bent over her, lips near her ear. "Wake up," he said, voice barely more than breath. "Please, I need you to choose to stay. James stood at the threshold of the chapel, its old wooden door groaning under his touch. The hospital's small church sat quietly in a courtyard shadowed by tall trees, wrapped in the hush of late afternoon. He had asked for permission to bring Diep here, though she still hadn't woken. Nurses helped move her gently, machines trailing behind her like reluctant guardians. He needed this, not a miracle, not clarity, just presence, just God. Inside, the light filtered through stained glass in warm hues of ruby and gold. It bathed Diep's sleeping face in an almost sacred glow. James sat beside her, took her hand, and let his words spill, not like speeches in meetings, but like rivers breaking through stone. "Dear Lord," he whispered, hands clasped, eyes burning. "She's the strongest person I know, and she's carrying our child. If strength ever deserved a second chance, let it be now." The chapel was empty, but for the two of them. Yet James felt watched, not judged, but heard. Maybe by something larger than understanding. Maybe by Diep herself, floating somewhere above pain. The air inside the chapel was different. Thicker, slower, like time had lowered its voice. He placed a small bouquet of gardenias on her lap, her favorite, soft and white like first snow. Then he leaned close, voice trembling. "I'm sorry I waited so long to say this, but I love you. I want to spend the rest of my life with you, with both of you." The chapel bell rang once, long, deep, echoing like a call into eternity, then a flicker. Her finger moved, barely, but enough. James fell silent. His breath caught. The air shifted. The prayer hung there, unfinished, yet somehow answered. Outside, the rain had stopped. Sunlight pierced the gray, casting gold across the chapel floor. And for the first time in days, James felt something like hope. The hospital corridor felt quieter that day. Not the silence of machines or routine, but something else. Like the breath the world holds before an answer is spoken. Diep had stirred. Just slightly, just enough to send a shiver through James's spine. The flick of a finger. The soft flutter of her eyelids in the pale light. It was not a full awakening, but it was movement. A sign. James hadn't told anyone yet. Not the nurses, not his mother, not even the doctor. It felt sacred, private. Like a secret only meant for those who had waited, prayed, and loved in silence. That afternoon, he sat by her bedside, hands folded, but not trembling. There was something steady in him now, like the stillness of earth before spring. He had waited long enough, and though her eyes were still closed, though her breath came in small, careful patterns, he knew she could hear. On some level, through some invisible thread between two souls, she was listening. He took something from his coat pocket. A ring. Simple, silver, with the faintest engraving on the inside. To the woman who came back. His voice was low, deliberate, like someone singing a lullaby to a child not yet born. "Diep, I know this isn't the moment you imagined. No flowers, no candles, no music. Just wires, machines, and the smell of antiseptic." He smiled, eyes glinting with sadness. "But maybe love isn't about waiting for the perfect setting. Maybe it's about choosing, especially when things are imperfect, especially when everything hurts." He took her hand, traced the line of her knuckles with his thumb. "I waited because I thought you needed time, and I was right. But I also realized I was waiting for something I already had. My heart was already yours. The moment you told me you were carrying our child, I knew. No contract, no success, no version of life would ever matter more than this." He paused, breathed deeply. I don't want to ask you this because I'm scared of losing you. I want to ask because no matter what happens next, whether you walk again tomorrow or months from now, whether you're strong or fragile, whether you're scared or hopeful, I choose you. He reached for the ring, then hesitated. His voice cracked. Will you marry me, Diep? Not because everything is perfect, but because everything is real. The room held its breath. And then, slowly, agonizingly slowly, Diep's eyes opened. First confusion, then clarity. She looked at him, truly looked, and tears rose in her eyes like dew rising from the earth at dawn. Her lips moved, no sound yet. He leaned closer. Her voice was barely there, just air and willpower. James, I'm here, he whispered, holding her hand tighter. Take your time. She swallowed, tried again. I love you. He closed his eyes. A breath of light escaped him. But, she continued, her voice gaining strength like a fire catching wind, I'm not ready. The ring paused between them. His hand trembled, not from surprise, but from tenderness. I'm weak, she said. I don't know what will happen to the baby. I don't know what will happen to me. I don't want to marry you only to become your burden. James listened. No interruption, just breath and patience. I've been married once, she said, and I lost everything. I cannot go into this again if I don't know how to stand on my own. Her eyes filled, not with fear, but with honesty. He nodded, slowly, placed the ring back into his coat. I understand. But then he reached for her other hand. Diep, saying no doesn't change what I feel. It doesn't take away the fact that I love you, that I'll still be here tomorrow, and the day after, and the day after that. She sobbed, quietly, not from sorrow, but from relief. Then wait for me, she whispered. He smiled. I already am. Outside, the last clouds began to part. The city was still the same, but James knew something had shifted. Not the end of a love story, but the middle. Not a proposal refused, but postponed. Because sometimes the most powerful word isn't yes. It's not yet. The sun was beginning its descent when James wheeled Diep onto the hospital balcony. Her body was still weak. Each movement a quiet negotiation between strength and fragility. But her eyes, those eyes were clearer than ever. A breeze rolled through, cool and clean, brushing the loose strands of hair against her cheeks. Somewhere far off, wind chimes rang softly, like fragments of a forgotten melody returning. They didn't speak at first. The world below them moved with its usual pace. Nurses changing shifts, patients being wheeled from one room to another, traffic murmuring in the distance. But here, in this narrow balcony overlooking the city, time had slowed. Or maybe, just maybe, it had stepped aside to let them feel. Today's sunset is softer, Diep said, her voice still thin, like something woven from silk threads. James looked toward the horizon. The sky was a gentle gold, fading into muted lavender. You used to say sunsets made you sad, he replied. They do, she nodded faintly. But this one feels different, like it's not about ending, just resting. He smiled. I like that. She turned slightly to look at him. Her eyes searched his face, and when she spoke again, her voice held more weight. James, do you ever regret waiting for me? His brow furrowed. Never. Even when I pushed you away? Even when I told you I wasn't ready? He didn't answer immediately. Instead, he leaned on the railing, watching the light slip behind distant buildings. Then, softly, loving you has never felt like waiting. It's felt like staying. She blinked back tears. I was so scared, not just of being sick, but of failing again, of being left behind. He turned to her, the light touching his face just enough to show the pain behind his steadiness. I know. That's why I didn't rush you. That's why I'll wait. Not because I have to, but because I want to. There was silence again, but this one was gentler, shared. They sat in it the way people sit in old memories, with a kind of reverence. Then, after a while, Diep spoke again. I've been thinking a lot about the baby. James straightened. Me too. I'm afraid, she admitted, of not being strong enough, of being a mother and failing at it. He reached for her hand. You're already being a mother. Every breath you take, every fight to stay awake, every tear you hold back, it's all for them. She closed her eyes. What if I don't make it? You will. His voice didn't waver. But even if you didn't... He paused, then knelt in front of her, level with her face. I'd tell our child every day that their mother was the bravest soul I've ever known. She let the tears fall then, not loudly, not dramatically, just a quiet surrender, as if her soul had been carrying too much weight and was finally allowed to set it down. And what about us? She asked. If I never say yes? James wiped her cheek with his thumb. Then I'll still be here. I didn't fall in love with you to win a wedding. I fell in love with you because I couldn't help it. She smiled through tears. You sound like a bad romance novel. He chuckled. You always said I had no sense of poetry. The sun disappeared behind the city skyline. The last light lingered, draping their forms in silhouettes. Two people not reaching the end, not quite reaching a beginning, but somehow holding each other exactly where they were supposed to be. And in that twilight, something wordless passed between them. A promise not built from rings or ceremonies, but from presence, from staying, from seeing someone at their most fragile and choosing to love them anyway. The room was dim again. A soft hush had returned to the hospital, like dusk had slipped into every corner and folded the day away in silence. Diep lay in her bed once more, but not unconscious, not absent. This time, she was fully awake, with a heart full of conflict and a soul unsure of what it was allowed to want. She held the ring in her hand, not on her finger, not yet, just resting there, as if it belonged to another future. A future she had once longed for but now feared. It's beautiful, she whispered, turning the small silver band between her fingers. The engraved words caught the faint light, to the woman who came back. James sat beside her, one leg crossed over the other, elbows resting on his knees. He had learned how to be still with her, how to breathe in tune with her quiet, how not to rush. You can give it back, he said gently, if it feels like too much. She shook her head. No, I want to keep it, just not wear it yet. A pause, then, with barely contained emotion, I want to earn it first. James blinked, his throat tight. You don't need to earn anything. You're not a project. You're the woman I love. Diep looked down. I know, but I need to feel like I can stand next to you, not be carried. She touched her belly lightly, almost as if afraid to wake the life inside. This child deserves a mother who can walk on her own feet. James reached out and gently placed his hand over hers. This child already has that. Diep closed her eyes for a moment, letting his warmth settle over her trembling. Then she said, I think I'll start by learning to breathe again, without panic, to eat, to sleep, to not wake up thinking I'm broken. James didn't speak, he only nodded. There were words too big for speech, and he had learned over these long days that love sometimes means holding space, not filling it. Then her voice broke through the quiet again, softer this time. Do you think I'm selfish for asking you to wait? James leaned forward, his forehead resting against her hand. If you're selfish, then so am I, for wanting you to stay no matter how long it takes. A silence fell between them, not empty, but full, like rain just before it falls. Outside, the night was folding the city into itself. In another room, someone laughed. Somewhere down the hall, a lullaby hummed from a phone speaker. The world went on. And yet, in this room, time felt suspended again. Then came the call. James's phone lit up. Mother. He answered quietly. Con nang hej me. A warm, familiar voice filled the receiver. Trang tre on, ga van je trung ju, ka haki kung goan, nhong kon ho cho diep and jung jio, me lo cho kai tai je. James glanced at Diep. She smiled at the mention of the farm, of normal things. Chickens, dogs, soil, life. He handed the phone to her. Me moon noi chuyen voyem. Diep hesitated, then took it. Chow chow ko ah. The conversation was short, tender. When she returned the phone, her face was flushed, damp at the corners of her eyes. She said, she's already treating me like family, Diep whispered. James nodded. She always did. Diep looked down at the ring once more. I'm not saying no, she said. James smiled. I know. I'm saying, not yet. He leaned forward, kissed her forehead. Then I'll keep waiting. She rested the ring on the bedside table, not locked away, not discarded, just waiting. Like him, like her. Because sometimes the most beautiful love stories aren't made of weddings or grand declarations, but of quiet patience, of showing up every day, of understanding that healing doesn't follow a schedule, that yes can wait. Outside, morning was preparing itself, quietly unfolding behind the curtains. Inside, two souls sat side by side, not at the end, not quite at the beginning, but in a rare, sacred middle, where love doesn't demand, it simply remains.
Chào mọi người đến câu chuyện ngày hôm nay. Câu chuyện xoay quanh Alex và John, hai người đàn ông nên kiếm tìm tử na, một người phụ nữ bí ẩn và đầy nỗi lo lắng. Trong lúc Alex và John hợp tác với cảnh sát để tìm manh mối về cô, tử na lại đang đối mặt với khó khăn trong cuộc sống, phải nuôi con nhỏ trong những khi không đủ tiền bạc và cuộc công việc ổn định không ổn định. Liệu Alex có giúp đỡ tử na hay cô sẽ tiếp tục tự mình chiến đấu? Cuộc tìm kiếm này sẽ tiết lộ những bí mật thì các bạn cuối cùng là gì? Đừng quên đăng ký để giúp chúng tôi đạt được 1000 theo dõi.